Yeah, Recycling Advocates is a wonderful organization. They're definitely a partner with AOR in a lot of different events and efforts. Association of Oregon Recyclers is a 501c6, which means we're a trade association. We have a lobbyist in Salem, and we work on recycling, composting, and also other waste reduction efforts. Now, the whole concept of getting away from recycling and composting is so difficult, and that's going to be a part of this presentation. This presentation is about the policy development for single-use plastic reduction. If you all recall, the mayor wanted to do a plastic straw ban, and that's how this whole process started. So the presentation is going to be about that process and where we are right now. How many folks have been to that website, portlandoregon.gov/BPS/reduce plastics? Raise your hand. Okay, excellent. I am so happy so many people raised their hand. For those of you who did not raise your hand, this is a good place to find meeting minutes, and also we have a survey there, a community survey that's going to be open for the next couple of weeks. So there's a lot of information on that website to learn more about the process. So I'm going to just do some highlights. That's probably what you're mostly interested in. Okay. So I think you're all aware that there are some campaigns that are going on right now, and they've been going on for a while. Bring Your Own Cup, Recycling Advocates, Ditch the Straw, Surfrider, yay, Surfrider. And also Resourceful PDX. So the outreach team, the master recyclers over here, and also I'm sure many of you have done this work where you go out and you talk about the opportunities for waste reduction and waste prevention in your community. So Resourceful PDX is another campaign run by the city of Portland, which is my employer. And there are decision lenses. This is the most complicated thing about materials and waste, is that you try to solve one problem and so often you mess up another thing. It's like whack-a-mole. So we want to solve marine litter, right? Okay, so how do we do that? We eliminate single-use plastics. But what is the most climate-intensive material that we can think of? Well, I think that might be, scientifically speaking, food. If single-use plastics make sure that your food gets in your mouth and not the landfill as waste, then that's a great use of a single-use plastic with the lens of greenhouse gas emissions. So as we start to look at some of these lenses, marine litter, we also have to balance those lenses with other things like greenhouse gases. Equity and inclusion is another lens that we need to balance, as well as toxicity. I think that there's a lot of information out there about some compostable plastics that may have some toxic elements, as well as when plastics are heated up, they're commonly known to not be good for us humans. So we have to be aware of all these lenses. So the resolution was, the council on June 20th basically said, let's look into doing a straw ban. Let's engage the community. And then in general, let's come up with a waste reduction strategy for single-use plastics. So we developed a work group. We held 3 work group meetings, and the work group consisted of restaurants, wholesalers, ADA straw users, and environmental advocates. So one of the issues about plastic straws that I really wasn't aware of is how important plastic straws are for people with disabilities, as well as people who are recovering from injury, so hospitals. So this is a very serious consideration. We had 2 folks that were wheelchair users that were on the work group that really told us, you know, it's kind of a hard thing to talk about, but they told us some of their experiences around using plastic straws and how important it is for them to drink something like as simple as a glass of water when they're out. So we really, when we're hearing that information, we really kind of backed off the ban because we also heard from them that a ban kind of villainizes them because they may need a plastic straw to drink and they don't want to feel like they're killing turtles by using a plastic straw. So we really kind of heard that, and that allowed us to kind of take a step back and focus on maybe some more materials and some different strategies. And so that's what I'm going to get into in a little bit. So we did a survey. Anyone fill out the survey? Anyone remember a survey? It had some plastic floating in water with Mount Hood. We got in trouble with the Water Bureau about that. It didn't mean for it to look like Bull Run, but it apparently did. So the survey was distributed. We translated the survey into 6 different languages, and the languages that we translated the survey into were languages of that Multnomah County Health Department had recommended, and we have gotten 0 responses so far in a month on our translated surveys. I think something that we suspect in that is that the communities that speak these languages may not be engaged in this topic, and so we may be looking at we probably are looking at a very English-speaking advocacy, which, that's probably you in this room and beyond. So it really points out that when we do a campaign, we're going to have to be much more thoughtful about approaching communities that speak primarily different languages that may not be aware of some of the issues that we're trying to tackle, and we really want to engage them in the process. So that's going to be something we look to doing in the future. We got almost 4,000 responses, which is fantastic, and overwhelming support. So we asked everyone to rate their support of public policy reducing single-use plastics 1 to 100, and the average response was 86. So people really were saying, let's do something about this. So we also heard from the business community, medical institutions, schools, environmental advocates. We heard from Solve, environmental regulators. So we talked to the DEQ and health inspectors. So Multnomah County was a part of the process as well. So all of these pieces of information kind of helped us come up with the proposal moving forward. So, when I said yes to this presentation, I thought we'd be done by now. So I thought that I would be saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. But we're in the middle of the process. We had to lengthen the timeline a little bit. But on November 14th, we're going to go back to council with a recommendation that before we enact any city laws, that we actually engage the business community to do a business-facing campaign. So we're working with the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association as well as the Portland Business Alliance to get 100% of their members to participate in a couple of actions for waste reduction. And then we're going to do a consumer campaign, which will be, I don't know if it's going to be Resourceful PDX, but I would imagine it would have some sort of a spin-off. And then we're also going to do a reusable dishware demonstration project. And we're going to be focusing on fast food restaurants, so Burgerville's at the table, and we want to focus on schools. Once upon a time, Burgerville and every school in this area had dishwashers, and they had people that washed dishes. And that was just the norm, okay? So over the course of time, I think we all can remember times when we would see reusable dishes a lot more than we do, and they're making a comeback. But we're trying to do it on a larger scale here, and we're trying to do it in a way that embraces the larger community. And getting our kids to be fully reusable would be a great way to do that. So we're going to use this demonstration project as a way to really make the case for going to reusable. We're going to be looking for Orla and PBA to go 100% pledge. So building customer awareness for dine-in situations. So if you sit down in a restaurant, we're asking that the straws are by request. So you will not get a straw until you request it. Also, if you have takeout or delivery, the policy would be that you would have to ask, do you want utensils or 18 ketchup packets or 50 million napkins? And so we're hoping that question is going to create a reduction in those materials. And then our measurement of success would be the sale. We're actually asking all of these companies to go to FSA and to go to Cisco, which they cover about 80% of restaurants in town, and give us straw data. So where were we with our straw, our City of Portland business straw purchases in August of 2017, which is when Ditch the Straw and Surfrider started their campaign. We're going to compare that to August of 2018, and then we're going to do this stuff, and then we're going to ask them to do it again in 2019. And so at that point, a year from now, we're going to be able to have a narrative of how many straws were reduced in that time frame. And then the consumer awareness campaign is just, letting folks know that they can reduce the reasons why reducing single-use plastics is important. So it's also, we have to really talk about this in a meaningful way, and we also have to be aware of all the lenses that we looked at before and try to make sure that we're not steering folks into buying a bunch of metal straws and using them once and throwing them away. If we do that, then we're going to be using way more greenhouse gas emissions than if for single-use plastics. So we just really need to be thoughtful about that balance, and we're going to try to inform the consumer about how to do that. And then the reusable dishware, we're going to be looking at the demonstration project will be fast foods, one school, and a medical facility. And we're going to be looking at environmental impacts and financial implications. So it's not as easy as just installing a dishwasher. There may be some gray water issues, or you may need to put in a grease trap, or so there's a lot of things that we don't know about reinstituting this infrastructure, and we're hoping that this project will help us learn what we need to do. And then the idea would be that a year from now, we would report out of these two campaigns as well as the demonstration project to council, and then they would make a decision as to where we go next. Do we pursue policy, or do we build on these campaigns? A lot of the community wanted to make this about composting. Get a compostable straw, or about recycling. Get a straw that's recyclable. And it's really, we cannot go in that direction. So we've been very clear about the green and the blue bin are not solutions to this problem. Solutions to this problem are waste prevention and reuse. And when you talk to other folks in the community, we need to keep repeating that message, because that's where the golden ticket is in this game. Okay, thank you all very much.